Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijan Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarupascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. So today we are going to revise unit number 6, which covers Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, chapters 1 to 5. All of those devotees who plan to speak today can please try to speak at a little faster pace so that we can stay within the time. At least couple devotees may go over considering the topics. But before we continue, for our upcoming holidays, I'm going to give you some spiritual endeavor to keep you occupied. So I'm going to give you a lecture from before on Sanskrit and how to take darshan. I'm going to post it here in the chat. So you all can please download this and listen during your holidays. Second, I'm also going to give you Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 28, verses 13 to 33 on how to meditate on the limbs of the Lord. So this will help you when you listen to the lecture of how to take darshan that our Siksha Guru His Grace Bhakti Yoga Prabhu will describe in the lecture that I'm just posting in the chat. It's uploading now. The Bhagavatam verses will help you meditate what Bhakti Yoga Prabhu is describing. And the next lecture I'm going to give you is on Ekadashi, again by our Siksha Guru His Grace Bhakti Yoga Prabhu. So it's also uploading in the chat. Please download. And others can also please consider to listen to the lecture I mentioned earlier about Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.22, that how I gave a lecture on one verse for about 30 minutes covering so many topics, so many areas that we generally don't cover in our classes. So consider all these and keep your holidays time occupied in Krishna conscious activities that way. If you are not able to download what I posted in the chat, you can by all means get it from me by offline message. Questions, comments, realizations? All right, so let's start revising unit number 6, which covers Canto 2, chapters 1 to 5. Gauri, you want me to play your recording or you'll speak?
Prabhuji, you can please play the recording.
All right.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances and forgive me for any mistakes. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. At the end of Canto 1, Maharaj Parikshit inquires from the sages about the duty of everyone, under all circumstances, especially those who are about to die. Upon Vyasadev's appearance, Parikshit Maharaj inquires what a man should hear, chant, remember and worship, and what he should not do, and show everyone the way to perfection. Sukadev Goswami starts by first offering obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Canto 2 describes the post-creation manifestation. The different planetary systems are described as different parts of the universal body of the Lord. It has 10 chapters which describe the purpose of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The first chapter describes the glories of chanting and the process by which a neophyte devotee may take up chanting. Sukadev Goswami glorifies Maharaj Parikshit's questions. Krishna Katha benefits the hearer, speaker and the inquirer. Grihasthas live together with family but for transcendental realization of the absolute truth. They are aware of ultimate miseries of life, birth, old age, disease and death. They know the ultimate solution is to go back to Godhead. They want to hear the name, form, pastimes of the Lord who is eternal. They are aware that the human life is a combination of matter and spirit soul, Atma Tattva. Knowing that human life is meant to make a solution to the problems of material existence, they work to improve spiritual life. However, the Grihamedis live only for the benefits of family members. They are envious of others. This extends to communities and countries who exist for their benefit and selfish interest. They are blind to the knowledge of the absolute truth. They want to hear the name, form, pastimes for things that are temporary. They spend time in sleeping or sex indulgence at night and money making and spending during the day. Karmis do regulated economic development and associate with women for sex indulgence. They are devoid of Atma Tattva. They work to improve material life. Karmis, though sufficiently experienced, do not realize their inevitable destruction due to their attachment to temporary things, are victimized by ignorance, and are vain in searching for permanent living. Thus, a Grihamedi can desire to get free from all miseries by hearing, glorifying, and remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead and get success in whatever he is engaged in. The highest perfection of life, which is constant remembrance of the Lord, can be achieved by karmis, jnanis, yogis and bhaktas. Through philosophical speculation, cultivation of mystic powers or discharge of religious duties, one can achieve Narayan Smriti only after associating with a pure devotee. The topmost transcendentalist is above regulative principles, a liberated souls. His forms and attributes are not material. Sukadev Goswami gives his own example as topmost transcendentalist. At the end of the Dwapar Yuga, he studied Bhagavatam through Vyasadeva, who compiled it under the instruction of Narad Muni. Bhagavatam is based on the name, form, attributes, pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is spoken by Vyasadeva. It relates the pastimes of the Lord executed in association with his pure devotees. Mentions historical incidents. Bhagavad Gita is the sound incarnation and Bhagavatam is the sound representation. The absolute truth is realized first as impersonal Brahman, next as super soul. An impersonalist, after reading Bhagavatam, can be converted into a transcendentalist. Sukadev Goswami was situated in transcendence since the beginning and had no attachment for mundane activities. Avroha Pantha is the process of receiving transcendental knowledge through bona fide disciplinic succession. Progress depends on the Lord's mercy, and spiritual master explains everything in Avroha Pantha. Disciple needs to have a submissive attitude. Both must be bona fide. The teachings are imparted in Bhagavad Gita, and it prepares one to study Bhagavatam. Vyasadeva explained everything to Sukadev Goswami right from the Janmadhyasya verse, and Sukadev Goswami is now explaining this to his bona fide student. Constant chanting is the way to success. The 10 offenses are: vilify the great devotees who have preached the glories of the Lord. Distinguish the Lord's name as material commodities. Think of the Lord's name as the same as that of demigods. Neglect the orders of acharyas. Vilify the scriptures of Vedic knowledge. Consider the holy name to be different from him. Think the holy name to be imagination. Commit sins intentionally on the strengths of the holy name, considering chanting to be a ritualistic activity. Instructing an unwilling audience about the glories of chanting. Being in false ego while chanting and forgetting that the goal of chanting is to get rid of false ego. And be attentive while chanting. As Maharaj Parikshit has only 7 days to live, Sukadev Goswami provides Maharaj Parikshit words of encouragement that even living 100 years without knowing the problems of life is a waste. It is better to live a short life with full knowledge of the meaning of life. He gives the example of Khatvanga Maharaj, who, after being informed that he had only a moment more to live, opted to take shelter of the Supreme Personality to get free from material miseries. Sukadev Goswami indicated to Maharaj Parikshit that he should take shelter of the sound incarnation of the Lord in the last 7 days of his life. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Shivangi is next.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, seeking permission and blessings from all of you, Srila Prabhupada, Sri Guru Parampara, as well as Sri Radha Krishna, to offer the summary of Canto 2, Chapter 1, titled The First Step in God Realization, from verses 15 to 39. Please forgive me for my shortcomings and mistakes. In these verses, Srila Shukadeva Goswami continues his discourse with Maharaja Parikshit by describing how Ashtanga Yoga is used for attaining liberation. Though this section focuses on Ashtanga Yoga, which is not the recommended process for Kali Yuga. This presentation will attempt to draw some important parallels also relevant for the Bhakti Yoga process. The prime focus of the Ashtanga Yogi is to cut off all attachment to the material body and everything pertaining to it and all desires thereof. Sukadeva Goswami stresses how this can be done gradually by converting our desires into spiritual desires in devotional service to the Lord. He also describes how the Ashtanga Yogi should leave home and practice celibacy and self-control from sex desire. This can be achieved by chanting the holy names of the Lord. The powerful sex impulses can drag down even the most practiced Ashtanga Yogi, and this key point is being stressed. Though Shukadeva Goswami describes how the Ashtanga Yogi tunes into transcendental vibrations by reciting Om, regulating breathing, as well as ensuring control of the mind, we can learn here the importance of transcendental sound vibrations. The chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the recommended process for this age to help regulate the senses and the mind, which is the center of all sense activities. He goes on to illustrate the importance of purifying the mind of material sense activities for the Ashtanga Yogi, which is also very important for us to know. Key takeaway here is that the mind too absorbed in material activities can be engaged in the service of the personality of Godhead and become fixed in full transcendental consciousness. The Ashtanga Yogi is then instructed to meditate upon the limbs of the Lord in his Vishnumurti, one after another, systematically beginning from his lotus feet. Meditating upon the personal form of the Lord is easier for most common people to focus on. In this way, one's mind, which is always agitated by the modes of passion and bewildered by the mode of ignorance, can be cleansed. Essentially, he goes on to explain that without being touched by devotional service, the Ashtanga Yogi cannot achieve true success. Only by a system of remembrance and by being fixed in the habit of seeing the all-good personal conception of the Lord can one very soon attain devotional service unto him under his direct shelter. Parikshit Maharaja then inquires further about where the mind has to be applied and how it can be fixed so that impurities can be cleansed. And the answer is that the Ashtanga yogi has to cleanse his mind of all dirty things or anarthas such as lust, greed, and avarice with intelligence. Apply the mind to focus on the Lord's Virat Rupa. It is thus herein that the Virat Rupa form of the Lord is both a challenge to the atheist and a favor for the asuras who can think of the Lord as Virat and thus gradually cleanse the dirty things from their hearts in order to become qualified to actually see the transcendental form of the Lord in the near future. This Virat form of the Lord is his extreme mercy. What follows now is also a description of the Srimad Bhagavatam's conception of the universal form of the Lord, which will be described concisely for the purposes of this summary. The Virat form of the Lord includes many comparisons of the Lord's bodily form with the planetary systems. For example, the lower planetary systems are his legs, the middle planetary systems as his torso, and the upper planetary systems as his upper body. Also, for example, rivers and oceans as his veins, mountains and hills as his bones, things like that. The discussion concludes with the message that this gigantic conception form of the Lord is his extreme mercy for those conditioned materialistic persons whose minds are constantly flickering. By thinking of this form of the Lord, it can help them by focusing on various aspects of creation and correspondingly remembering the Lord's features. And this way they can gradually become liberated from the material world. In essence, this chapter concludes with the key message by Shukadeva Goswami as he tries to impress upon us that instead of diverting our attention to several branches of self-realization, we should concentrate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the supreme object of realization, worship, and devotion. This concludes the summary. Thank you all for listening. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Any questions, comments, realizations for Gauri and Shivangi?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. A very beautiful presentation by Gauri and Shivangi. It's like, feel like meditating on their presentation. And Divya, Shivangi, that the meditation music was awesome. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
All right. Very good. Yeah, both Gauri and Shivangi have summarized nicely chapter 1. So I will also quickly summarize. So Canto 2 is titled The Cosmic Manifestation. Chapters 1 to 5 is Unit 6 and is titled Prayers of Sukadeva Goswami and the Universal Form. Canto 2, Chapter 1 is titled The First Step in God Realization. The connection between Canto 1 and Canto 2 is that towards the end of Canto 1, Parikshit Maharaj inquired that, O trustworthy Brahmanas, out of all the different duties, first, what is duty a living being must execute in all circumstances? And second, what is the duty of one who is just about to die? Parikshit Maharaj inquired with Sukadeva Goswami that you are the spiritual master of great saints and devotees. I am therefore begging you to show the way of perfection for all persons, and especially for one who is about to die. So Parikshit Maharaj asked two questions, what to do and what not to do. So Sukadeva Goswami will first reply on what one should not do, means nisheda or prohibitions. In Krishna consciousness, there is vidhi to chant 16 rounds and nisheda of 4 regulative principles. If one is not able to follow all vidhi, still one should continue chanting with the aim to come to 16 rounds, chanting daily as soon as is possible. With Nisheda, the 4 regulative principles, we cannot say that today I will not follow the 4 regulative principles and tomorrow I will follow the 4 regulative principles. No, it doesn't work this way. The point is that Nisheda are very powerful. Vidhi cannot be broken But Vidhi can still be relaxed. Nisheda cannot be broken at all. Therefore, Nisheda is explained first. Sukadeva Goswami then starts with reciting invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, just as we all also recite the invocation prayers. By chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, one is offering respects to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sukadeva Goswami glorifies Parikshit Maharaj's questions because questions and answers about Krishna elevate all to transcendental position. In the purport, Prabhupada explains that topics of Lord Krishna are so auspicious that they purify the speaker, the hearer, and the inquirer. Krishna Katha topics are compared to Ganges, that wherever Ganges flows, land is purified, and persons who bathe in Ganges, they also get some purification. Similarly, Krishna Katha are so pure that wherever they are spoken, the place, the hearer, the inquirer, the speaker, and all concerned become purified. When we hear Krishna Katha, Krishna enters through our ears. Krishna, the sun, arises in our heart by hearing. In Srimad Bhagavatam, this Canto 2, Chapter 1, materialistic way of life is described, that how foolish materialistic men waste their precious human form of life, working hard during the day to make money and sleeping at night, instead of focusing on the ultimate solution to end birth, death, old age, disease, and to go back home, back to Godhead. The Grahamedi is materially engrossed people who live for own and family benefit only. Therefore, they are jealous because of selfish interest. Materialistic persons devoid of Atma Tattva are blind to the ultimate knowledge. Therefore, they do not inquire about the real problems of life, of Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, because they are too attached to material things. Although they see death every day, but foolishly they make plans to live here in the material world perpetually. Being too attached to family members, they think relatives are everything, and they want to win over the invincible material nature by the aid of bodily strength of fallible own self, children, wife, relatives, etc. While Grahastha is a real householder who lives according to scriptures for spiritual advancement. Srila Prabhupada's mood and mission in these commentaries is that activities arising from nature are not conducive for self-realization and defeats the purpose of human form of life. Being engaged in material activities, the living soul entangles himself in the cycle of law of rotative actions and the law of birth and death. Just visualize, in this cycle we are already being entangled for at least 155 trillion years. And if we don't disentangle, we'll continue for another at least 155 trillion years in this cycle, and who knows how many more cycles. So what's the solution to end the Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi problem of life? Solution is Bhakti Yoga. Human life is not meant for hard labor for economic development, nor is it meant for sex indulgence like that of dogs and hogs. Human life is specially meant for making a solution to miseries of material life. Due to poor fund of knowledge, materialistic people do not know the process of going back home to Godhead. The process is to hear about the Supreme Lord, His name, form, pastimes, etc., meaning the Bhakti Yoga process. If one desires freedom from this vicious circle of birth and death, then one must cease to act as a karmi or an enjoyer of the results of one's own good or bad work. Rather, one should not do anything, either good or bad, on his own account, but must execute everything on behalf of the Supreme Lord, the ultimate proprietor of everything. So I'll repeat, I jumble the words here a little bit. One should not do anything, either good or bad, on his own account, but one must execute everything on behalf of the Supreme Lord, who is the ultimate proprietor of everything. Plus, by following the perfect process of hearing about and glorifying the Lord, all a person's activities become molded into spiritual activities, and thus all material miseries become completely vanquished. Now, to support the Bhakti Yoga process, Sukadeva Goswami first gives his own example as evidence for following the Bhakti Yoga process, that Sukadeva Goswami is already a fully realized devotee. Still, he took up the study of Srimad Bhagavatam, being attracted by the pastimes of Supreme Lord. And Sukadeva Goswami says to Parikshit Maharaj that now I am going to give you that same Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is superior to all literature. Plus, Sukadeva Goswami also gives reference from scripture about Khatwanga Maharaj. The key point from Khatwanga Maharaj's life is to utilize one's life in glorifying the Lord instead of prolonged, wasteful life. So Khatwanga Maharaj was in heaven to fight on behalf of demigods. He won. The demigods then gave him a benediction that you only have a moment's life left. Instead of wanting to enjoy or getting distracted in heaven because of so much opulence and enjoyment in heaven, Khatwanga Maharaj asked the benediction that give me the fastest airplane to take me back to earth so that I can focus my mind on Krishna, because he was already knowing the purpose of life, that a moment's attention on Krishna is better than a prolonged, wasteful life of sense enjoyment. This is the learning. The last part of this chapter 1, Sukadeva Goswami describes Ashtanga Yoga. These Ashtanga Yoga verses are not important in Kali Yuga. Shivangi has already described this nicely. I'll just briefly explain that Parikshit Maharaj inquired where the mind has to be focused. In response, Sukadeva Goswami described the universal form. Srimad Bhagavatam's universal form is neither real nor eternal. This is just a concept to get the material people's material imagination focused from material things to spirituality. Therefore, he describes the concept that big things in the material world linked to the form of the Lord. Say, for example, Patal are like the Lord's lotus feet, rivers are like his veins, mountains are like his bones, trees are like his hair, so that the materialistic people can start focusing on spirituality. Therefore, this chapter 1 is titled First Step in God Realization. Srimad Bhagavatam is taking ordinary materialistic person using his material imagination to focus on the Lord. That's a quick summary of chapter 1. Questions, comments, realizations. All right. Chapter 2, Divya and Archana. Divya.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I'm seeking permission and blessings from all of you, Srila Prabhupada, Sri Guru Parampara, as well as Sri Radha Krishna, to offer this summary of Canto 2, Chapter 2, verses 1 to 13. Chapter 2 is titled The Lord in the Heart. Please forgive me for my shortcomings and mistakes. Rejection of Karma Kanda. This chapter begins with letting us know that even great personalities like Brahmaji are subject to the powerful illusory nature of the material world and can forget their previous memories. Once, after Brahmaji woke from his sleep, he forgot his memories. He meditated on the Supreme Lord and regained his memories of creation. Brahmaji is also Jiva Atma, and just like him, we can also meditate on the Supreme Lord to regain our lost consciousness and revive our relationship with the Lord. Sukadeva Goswami goes on to explain that the Vedas are presented in a very misleading format. They focus on karma kanda fruitative activities and the paths to higher planets through demigod worship. People trapped in material illusions worship demigods and unfortunately become like animals who are grazing grass on the way to the slaughterhouse. Their material desires will get fulfilled, but their karmas will increase and they will become stuck in the material world. The Lord has clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita that all planets and universes in the material creation are full of the four miseries: birth, death, disease, and old age. These miseries can only be escaped once we go back to the spiritual world, where we attain real and eternal bliss. Sukadeva Goswami also says that a serious and intelligent transcendentalist must only do the bare minimum of material activities required for basic sustenance. They must not get distracted by the worldly endeavors of business, economics, politics, history, etc., as all these items are not rooted in reality and will waste one's energy and labor. It will divert one away from the divine and our true purpose of life, which is self-realization. Acharyas have said, if the mind is fixed on material things, it cannot be fixed on the Supreme Lord. Additionally, the Lord has provided everything necessary to maintain life through the bounties of Mother Earth, from trees, fruits, rivers, land, etc., and He gives His protection to all those who have surrendered to Him. There is no need to focus on improving the comforts of life or creating attachments when one can simply focus on devotional service to the Lord. This is the ideal lifestyle for sannyasis or those in the renounced order of life. For those who cannot become sannyasis, the Lord has created the Varna Ashram system of life for gradual progression to achieve the same ultimate goal of devotional service. This benefits everyone and advances society on the right path. Description of the Supersoul. The Lord is situated in all living beings as the Paramatma. For humans, He resides in the region near the heart and is about 8 inches in height. He is in his beautiful Janardana form with 4 hands, each holding a lotus, conch shell, wheel of a chariot, and a club. He is dressed in yellowish garments and bedecked with valuable jewels set in gold ornaments, with a glowing headdress and earrings and garlanded with fresh flowers. His eyes are like lotus petals and his expression is smiling. Sukadeva Goswami explains the Lord's beautiful form in detail to teach the impersonalist that the Lord's form is not a devotee's imagination, but it is actual fact. The yogi meditates upon the Paramatma in this form. We should understand that the Lord has numerous forms and all his forms are non-different from each other. We cannot limit him to one line or statement from one scripture. By constantly worshipping the Lord's personal form and performing devotional service to Him, one is performing Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga gradually frees one from sex desire in the form of profit, adoration, and distinction. A person can measure his progress by checking the degree to which he has been freed from sex desire, just as one can check if his hunger is satisfied from his desire to eat. Thus, purification means getting free from sex desire. One must be fully free from sex desire before one can accept the sannyasi order of life and perform recitation of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Meditation of the Lord should start from his lotus feet and slowly rise higher, limb by limb, until one reaches the face of the Lord. This is also how devotees should take darshan of the Lord's Archa Vigraha form in the temples. Lastly, those who are fully engaged in sense gratification should never meditate beyond the lotus feet of the Lord until they come to a steady practice and are purified enough to progress higher. This concludes the summary. Thank you all for listening. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Archana?
Hare Krishna, everyone. I request permission and blessing from all the assembled devotees. Srila Prabhupada, Guru Parampara, Sri Sri Radha Krishna, to be able to speak on the subject of Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'll be presenting Canto 2, Chapter 2, the Lord in the Heart. From the text 14 to 32, practice and the process of living the body for an advanced yogi. 33 to 37, sadhana bhakti is the best process. This chapter 2 is very technical chapter, and the only one reason we are discussing chapter 2 because Sri Sukadev Goswami spoke the chapter. In chapter 2, spiritual body of a Lord described, so the practice of dharana by perfect yogi. The two parts of merging into the Lord, those who decided to give up his body are also described. Dharana means meditating on the visible material object which infer. Dharana on Bhagwan. Now what is the dharana on Bhagwan? Spiritual body of a Lord is dharana, which we have to meditate and how mind has to be applied. In Canto 2, Chapter 1, verse 22, Parishit Maharaj inquired where the mind has to apply and fix so that dirty thought can be removed. And same way, in the previous chapter, Canto 2, Chapter 1, verse 23, Sukadev Goswami replied, one should fix the mind on the gross potency of Lord, meaning the universe form. So that the mind can gradually purified, one can concentrate on the universal form. Mind became purified. In that purified consciousness, yogi are successful in meditating Vishnu form in the heart. Sukadev Goswami gave two processes for an advanced yogi for liberation, instant process and gradual process. In an instant process, they fix mind on universal form, free from contamination. Fix your mind on a Vishnu Murti in your heart, then will attain perfection. Ashtanga Yoga process in a Satyug is still a Bhakti Yoga. In a Satyug time, people used to have long life of 100,000 years. So they were able to follow this Ashtanga Yoga process. Sukadev Goswami said, whenever the yogi desire to leave this planet of human being, he should not be perplexed about the proper time or a place, but should comfortably sit without being disturbed and regulating the life air and should control the senses by the mind. The mind is easily conquered simply by engaging it at the lotus feet of the Lord. Gradually, by such service, all the senses automatically engage in the service of the Lord. He has no connection with the material world. He is trying to go back to Godhead by following Ashtanga process. That is a Bhakti Yoga via Ashtanga Yoga. This yogi is being described has no intent to go to heaven or to Brahma Loka or to attain any kind of siddhi. This yogi is very clear about his destination. He wants to go back to Godhead, and he has nothing to do with material world. He just trying to take soul out of the body and go back to Godhead. The second process is a gradual process. In a gradual process, there are a different destination. In this process, the yogi take this body as a vehicle to travel from one destination to another destination. They are aware after death, they have to take next body to travel. So it is described, this yogi's interest to see how the planet of Brahmaji, how demigod are enjoying in the heaven, or he want to attain some siddhi. So such yogis also follow Ashtanga Yoga, but they have all this material desire. It takes with him materially holded mind and senses, meaning his mind and senses are going with him. So the yogis is trying to go to different planet, one after the another, because he has the desire to see all this, and he's also trying to get purified simultaneously. There are no anxiety at Brahmaloka, except the anxiety when the yogi see how people are suffering because of karma. And out of compassion, they think of these people and how to help them and elevate them. This is the only anxiety in the Brahmaloka. Otherwise, it is very comfortable. Of course, it is still subject to four miseries: birth, old age, disease, and death. Sadhana bhakti is the best process. Brahmaji is the most intelligent and first living being. He studied Veda 3 times. Then he came to the conclusion of that devotional service is the highest. Always meditate on a Lord Hari in the heart, and one can simply work to relish Lord within the heart. By devotional service, one can perceive Lord presence anywhere and everywhere when the Lord revealed, and it is only possible by bhakti yoga or a sadhana bhakti. There is no need of mechanical, there is no need of machine and a tool for artificial creating comfort. We have to live simple life and use time in a high thinking. Therefore, it's a perfect way to live life to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. And by hearing process, the polluted desire of material enjoyment became purified. Srila Prabhupada gave the conclusion that devotee in a Krishna consciousness don't waste time in a Virat Rupa. Just engage in a devotional service to go back to Godhead. And we will be free from material entanglement. Simply serve spiritual master, serve Gopinath, and chant Hare Krishna, and everything will be all right. This is the quick summary of Canto 2, Chapter 2, The Lord in the Heart. Please forgive me for my mistake and shortcome. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
Very good. Questions, comments, realizations for Divya and Archana?
Prabhuji, very beautiful presentations by both Divya and Archana, and Archana's expressive voice, and very meticulously done by all four presenters. Really, really enjoying.
Very good.
Beautiful presentations by Divya and Archana. Thank you for explaining these difficult concepts.
Yes, both Divya and Archana has also done very good presentations like chapter 1 also. I will again quickly summarize chapter 2 as well. Canto 2, chapter 2 is titled The Lord in the Heart. This is a very technical chapter. And just because Sukadeva Goswami has spoken, therefore we are discussing. In this chapter 2, the spiritual body of the Lord is described. The practice of dharana by the perfect yogi is described. There are two paths for merging into the Lord. For those who desire to give up their body, the gradual and the instant path. Dharana on visible material objects which infer the presence of the Lord is described through the universal form. And dharana on the Bhagavan is also described. That how mind can be applied to. So in this chapter 2, Sukadeva Goswami describes the relevance of accepting minimum necessities in life by a devotee. Sukadeva Goswami gives the instant process and the gradual process of liberation. In the instant process, fix your mind on the universal form, free from contamination. Fix your mind on Vishnu Murti in the heart, then you will attain perfection. In the gradual process, there are different destinations that those desiring to see other planetary systems of entities, say in heavenly planets and other planets, that how they are enjoying. Or there are others who want to attain some siddhis, or some want to go to Brahma Loka. So they take this gradual process that they first go to these destinations, and depending on their further sadhana, they can either go to spiritual world or may have to come back to the material world. Generally, they come back as controlling demigods. If they go to Brahma Loka or even heaven, heaven is difficult to purify, but Brahma Loka possible, that some may still not be purified at Brahma Loka also. But because they are still a little purified than the rest of us, they end up becoming controlling demigods. And some who are able to do devotional service rigidly, they can also get liberated and end of Brahmaji's life. They also go to spiritual world together with Brahmaji. By hearing scriptures from pure devotees like Sukadeva Goswami, devotion will be awakened and affinity to hear more about activities of Supreme Lord will increase. So in this process of creation, Brahmaji is just born, and Brahmaji has forgotten how to do creation. Brahmaji does not have memory of his previous day's creation. And Srila Prabhupada explains that Brahmaji being living entity, therefore he also has this forgetful nature. And Srila Prabhupada also explains that this chance is available in human form of life, that if humans follow Srimad Bhagavatam, meditate on the universal form, then there is a chance of revival of the relationship with the Lord. Now, some in the assembly, together with Parikshit Maharaj, may think that why is Parikshit Maharaj not reading Vedas to get promoted to the heavenly planets? The answer described is that Vedic ways of fruitative activities is very misleading and is condemned. The worship of demigods is useless. Sukadeva Goswami says that those following Karma Kanda described in Vedas are in a dream because they don't get benefit of human life to its fullest possible extent. Because by demigod worship, at best, they can attain heaven. Well, heaven is also in the material world a place of misery. And heaven does not give eternal shelter. Heaven is like going to a resort. And when your money is finished, you have to come back to your regular place. Similarly, when karmic credit is finished, those at heaven have to come back to earth or even hellish planet. Therefore, going to heaven is useless. Is like child on a merry-go-round. Unintelligent child like on a merry-go-round. Demigod worship is like animal taken to slaughterhouse. On the way to slaughterhouse, animal is given grass or food, whatever it be. So demigods fulfill desires, but it keeps one in the material world, which is a slaughterhouse. So Sukadeva Goswami is saying to Parikshit Maharaj, not to desire for heaven, because heaven is also temporary and a miserable place. Rather, prepare yourself to go back home, back to Godhead. When I identify with material world, then my intelligence cannot be fixed on the Supreme Lord. Therefore, whatever is required to keep the body and soul together, bare minimum, that is okay to accept. Srila Prabhupada says that these so-called comforts are not helpful for progressive civilization. Therefore, we have to learn to accept minimum necessities. Hence, we perform activities in the world not to enjoy, rather to keep the body and soul together and fit so that we can do devotional service. When you require soft bed when earth is available, why are you requiring soft bed? Your arms are available, can be used as pillow. So all these are actually for sannyasis, and sannyasis therefore do not generally complain. Sadhu is satisfied with clothes lying on the street. And Sukadeva Goswami is angrily saying that have trees stopped giving food? The point is that whatever is bare minimum necessity required to keep the body and soul together, that's okay. But beyond this, do not increase your entanglement in the material world unnecessarily. Don't waste time in accumulating unnecessarily bodily comforts. Rather, use the time in Krishna consciousness. Solution is use the time and effort to meditate on Supreme Lord in your heart so as to get out of material entanglement and purify yourself. Description of the super soul in the heart is described as 8 inches tall, holds lotus, disc, conch shell, and club. His yellow garments bedecked with valuable jewels are like saffron on kadamba flower. His ornaments are all made of gold, set of jewels. He wears a glowing headdress and earrings. Next time you go take darshan, observe all these points. Some in the assembly may be thinking that why devotional service is given utmost importance. In Vedas, there are other processes also. Therefore, Sukadeva Goswami describes that by following Ashtanga Yoga, one can achieve liberation, meaning the instant process of liberation. Now, Ashtanga Yoga is not the process of Kali Yuga we already have established. This Ashtanga Yoga discussion is not required for you all Bhakti Yogi devotees. Therefore, we will skip discussing this part. And then Sukadeva Goswami does also describe the gradual process of liberation, where yogi has desires such as how the planet of Brahmaji is, how demigods are enjoying, or the yogi wants to attain some siddhis. So such a yogi with such desires takes with him the materially molded mind and senses, means his mind and senses are going with him. Sukadeva Goswami describes that there are no anxieties at Brahmaloka except when yogis see how people in the material world are suffering because of karma. And out of compassion, they think of these people. And this is the only anxiety in Brahmaloka. And lastly, sadhana bhakti, devotional service as the best path is described. That perceive Lord's presence always and everywhere. Srila Prabhupada is saying, if you are engaged in practical devotional service, Lord will reciprocate and you will understand his presence. So Parikshit Maharaj had asked what to remember. Therefore, Sukadeva Goswami is saying that Hari, the Lord, should be remembered at all times. By the hearing process, my polluted desires of material enjoyment become purified. Srila Prabhupada gives the conclusion that devotee in Krishna consciousness, they do not waste time on the universal form. Rather, they engage in devotional service to go back to Godhead, and we will be free from material entanglement. This point about wanting to remember the Lord and perceive Lord's presence everywhere, I'll give you a practical example from last time when we went to do services at the temple. So one of the devotee had a t-shirt from Gap. So the Gap t-shirt has that Gap written on the t-shirt. So our dear Kamalakanta's wife, Prema Rani, when she saw Gap, she translated as Govindam Adi Purusham. So G-A-P, she says Govindam Adi Purusham. So this is how Bhakti Yogi or devotees perceive the presence of the Lord anywhere and everywhere, whatever they see and hear in the material world. That's a quick summary of chapter 2. Questions, comments, realizations?
Prabhuji, this I just wanted to understand, like if we look at trees or rivers and think of Krishna, is there something wrong in that? If something reminds us of Krishna, like Gap reminded her of Govindam Adi Purusham. So it is so beautiful. So if something we see and it reminds us of Krishna, is that
so Archana had already described the answer to this question earlier when we were traveling to London for preaching activity. Archana, you want to describe what we were doing on the way?
Yes, Prabhuji. So when we see these beautiful things like a tree or a river, we are looking for, we are doing a
Vibhuti Yoga.
Vibhuti Yoga. So we can remember Krishna as a effulgence, like it is his power. So we cannot remember like, oh, it's a Krishna. It's like a Vibhuti Yoga. So it's energy. So we can remember Krishna's energy by seeing them. I'm right, Prabhuji? I'm not sure.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, correct. So we have discussed this in chapter 7, Bhagavad Gita, as well as chapter 10, Vibhuti Yoga, that you start by seeing Krishna's presence in all the material beautiful things around us, because they are all emanating from a spark. But you don't just stop at that beautiful thing. Rather, you make it bhakti yoga by saying, oh, this one of the zillion things manifested from a tiny spark of Krishna is so beautiful. Well, then how beautiful the whole Lord will be. You just take it a step further to do the connection. Then it becomes Vibhuti Yoga. Again, Archana, thank you.
Ji Prabhuji. So Vibhuti Yoga is thinking of looking at things and thinking of Krishna.
Correct. You connect the Vibhutis with Krishna. Just as, say, you see a film star or a cricketer, famous cricketer, they have their abilities, but their abilities are coming from Krishna. Materialistic people only focus on their ability. Oh, today he is able to hit so nicely or score so much. But then you take it forward saying, well, this ability is actually coming from Krishna. That remembrance of Krishna through the vibhuti in the material world makes it yoga. Then it becomes Vibhuti Yoga. Okay.
Got it, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Thank you, Archana Mataji.
All right. So now chapter 3, Chandran and Mayank Prabhus.
Hare Krishna. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Parampara, and Sri Radha Krishna. Seeking permission from Guru and Gauranga to speak on the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 3, where the demigod worship versus pure devotion service is the caption. Requesting devotees assemble to forgive me for any shortcomings. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. My presentation. Sukadeva Goswami answers for the question of Maharaja Parikshit to know the duty of the intelligent man at the time of death. Even an intelligent may be forgetful of genuine relation with Krishna. But revival of the lost relation is possible if one fully engages the lotus feet of Lord, rendering devotional service, hearing, chanting, and to know the pastime of the Lord. One can have considerable influence over a particular matter by worshipping a particular demigod. Miseries of life, namely birth, death, old age, and disease, cannot be solved by the worship of demigods. They are less intelligent and devoid of all good senses. Intelligence at the time of death leave all material enjoyment and completely surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord by hearing His messages from the right person. Demigod worships are for material benefit only. Vishnu worship for spiritual advancement in knowledge. For heredity and dynasty, one worship demigods. And worshipping Manus for domination over a kingdom. And worshipping demons for victory over an enemy. Worshipping moon for sense gratification. But one who has no desires and devoid of material enjoyment should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He only can award liberation to the impersonalist. One who desires to merge into the Supreme Personal Brahma Jyoti must also worship the Lord by Bhakti Yoga, being the supreme means of self-realization. A pure devotee does not want liberation, so that he may be relieved from the miseries of life. He is always an aspirant for the satisfaction of the Lord. One cannot obtain any result from demigods without getting sanction from the Supreme Lord. Either for material enjoyment or for liberation, one should take to the worship of Lord directly. Just like the unmixed sun ray is very forceful, the Bhakti Yoga of hearing, chanting, etc. may be performed regardless of inner motive. Human life is meant for making a solution to the problems of life. One can never solve such problems by satisfying different demigods by different modes of worship, or by so-called scientific advancement in knowledge without the help of God or the demigods. Vedas recommend worship of different demigods for different benefits. As the demigods are neither false nor imaginary. They are powerful because they are engaged in the direct service of the Lord. They managing different departments in the universal government. The worshippers of demigods reach the respective planets of the demigods. The gross materialists remain in the different material planets, but the devotees of the Lord reach the kingdom of God. Only a pure devotee of the Lord can show the right way of progressive life. Bhagavad Gita 10.9 explains characteristics of pure devotees. They are engaged in the service of the Lord and relish their transcendental bliss under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Consequence of hearing Krishna Katha is attainment of transcendental knowledge, which causes detachment from mundane topics, for which the devotee has no taste, becomes uninterested in his own, even in his own body, and not agitated by the waves of the material modes. This is my humble submission of the presentation. Thank you for the patient listening. Yes.
Okay, Mayank Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Guru Parampara and Sri Sri Radha Krishna. I seek permission to summarize Canto 2, Chapter 3, Part 2 from verse 13 to 25. Sanaka Rishi inquires more because he wants to hear more Krishna Katha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sanak Rishi further inquires from Sutta Goswami about what Maharaja Parikshit asked Sukadeva Goswami after hearing his previous explanations. Sukadeva Goswami was a self-realized, highly learned sage and a poet among sages. The presentation of Srimad Bhagavatam through his recitation is the highest poetic contribution. Srimad Bhagavatam is described as the Paramhansa Samhita, the Vedic literature meant for the topmost transcendentalists, and it presents Param Jnanam, the highest transcendental knowledge. Pure devotees of the Lord are called Paramahansas, and they are compared to swans who can extract milk from a mixture of milk and water. Maharaj Parikshit was naturally inclined towards Lord Krishna from his very childhood. Such Mahabhagavatas are called Nitya Siddhas. There are also others who may not be liberated from the birth but who develop a tendency for devotional service through association. They are called sadhana siddhas. Ultimately, there is no difference between the two. The conclusion is that one can become a sadhana siddha simply by associating with pure devotees. A concrete example is Sri Narad Muni. In his previous life, he was simply the son of a maid servant, but through the association of great devotees, he became a devotee of the Lord, of his own unique standard. Maharaj Parikshit was a great devotee of the Lord from birth, and so was Sukadeva Goswami. Both were on the same spiritual level, although externally, Maharaj Parikshit was a king accustomed to royal facilities, whereas Sukadeva Goswami was a typical renouncer of the world. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam, as spoken and heard by these two principal devotees, is meant only for the glorification of the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. The human form of life is meant to realize a lost relationship with the Supreme Lord by accelerating devotional service. Human life is awarded to the living entity so that one can realize one's spiritual identity and one's permanent source of happiness. Just as a highly potent drug injected intravenously acts at once on the whole body, transcendental topics of the Lord injected through the ear by a pure devotee can act very efficiently. A moment passed in the association of a pure devotee by hearing and chanting the transcendental message of the Lord is a pure guarantee of eternal life and returning home back to Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam categorizes a common man without spiritual enlightenment into the society of animals. The Bhagavatam openly declares that even if a person is a great leader, if he has no taste for spiritual enlightenment in the sense of Krishna, such a leader is never placed in the category of true human beings due to his aesthetic temperament. If a year is not engaged in the service of the Lord by hearing about him from Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, the ear holes will be filled with rubbish. Therefore, the message of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam should be preached very loudly all over the world. Everyone should make it a point to visit the temple of Sri Krishna and regularly bow down before the deity. The first process in the routine work of devotional service is hearing. Hearing by all classes of devotees from authentic sources like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is essential. For householder devotees, the path of deity worship is strongly recommended. Engagement in such worship under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master greatly helps householders purify their existence and make rapid progress in spiritual knowledge. Simple theoretical book knowledge is not sufficient for a neophyte devotee. Advancement of material science without God consciousness is a heavy load on the head of human society, and one must take a heed of this warning. The first condition of devotional service is to become the servant of a pure devotee. This is the method of disciplic succession or the devotional parampara. Lord Sri Krishna is the property of his pure unconditional devotees, and only devotees can deliver Krishna to another devotee. A pure devotee does not try to approach the Lord directly, but tries to please the servant of the Lord's servant. In this way, the Lord becomes pleased. The whole process of spiritual culture is meant to change the heart of the human being. With progress in devotional service, this change is exhibited by gradual detachment from the sense of material enjoyment. Hare Krishna.
All right. Any questions, comments, realizations for Chandran and Mang Prabhus? All right. I will also quickly summarize Canto 2, Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is titled Pure Devotional Service, the Change in Heart. In this chapter 3, Sukadeva Goswami discusses pure devotional service, that how a person engages in devotional service and the destination and the processes of pure devotional service. The importance of devotional service is repeated in this chapter 3 because people are attached to material possessions, children, wealth, etc. When one is engaged in worship of demigods, then one gets temporary and insignificant benedictions. Why one worships demigods is because they have material desires, they have material attachments. All this is lower. In response to Parikshit Maharaj's inquiry as to what a person should do for one who is about to die, Sukadeva Goswami said that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is in the heart as Super Soul, and Hari should be remembered always, should be the object of our life. Devotional service should be the object. Sukadeva Goswami discusses people are engaged in worshipping other personalities. Now, this is also the answer to Parikshit Maharaj's question that what a person should not do. That don't worship demigods. You are worshipping demigods because you have material desires. Well, come out of material desires. Devotees, they engage in devotional service, while these other materialistic people, they worship demigods for temporary and insignificant material benedictions. Sridhar Swami, a prominent Acharya, he says humans with less intelligence, because wanting temporary benedictions of this material world, therefore they worship demigods. Then the question becomes that if I have desires, who should I worship? And the answer is given in 2.3.10, very beautiful verse, key memorization and a beautiful verse to recite, that akama sarva kamava moksha kama udarati tivrena bhakti yogena yajate purusham param. He says tivrena bhakti yogena. That if one has no desires or one is full of desires or desires liberation, one should worship the Supreme Lord with all their effort. Therefore it says Tivrena. Now when demigods are fulfilling my desires, then why does it say here to get desires fulfilled by Supreme Lord? The answer is when worshipping Supreme Lord, that approach is free of disturbances. Demigod worship is not free of disturbances. Plus, demigod worshippers do not attain the highest perfection. Asking Supreme Lord for devotional service is the highest. But even for material desires, go to Supreme Lord that allows a devotee to enter into the bhakti circle. Demigod worship does not open the doors of bhakti. And you cannot get any benedictions from demigods to begin with unless they are sanctioned by Supreme Lord. So why go through vaya? So throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, as well as up to now what we have discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service is stressed again and again. Few analogies are given to condemn those who are averse to devotional service. That if you do not take shelter of Krishna consciousness in human form of life, then you are wasting time and precious human life. Also discusses how people are uselessly utilizing their senses. Human life is not to be vested in sense gratification like dogs and hogs, donkey and camels. Prabhupada's favorite line, economic development is nonsense. What's the solution? Solution is human life should be used in hearing Krishna Katha more and more. Analogy is given that just like a drug works immediately when injected through intravenously, similarly hearing Krishna Katha in devotee association through ears acts immediately and efficiently. Materialistic people, they argue life is for eating, mating, sleeping and defending. And foolish theories for prolonging life are given because they have no information about the next life. Unless one is trained for higher spiritual standards, they are no better than animals. They are just animals in a human form of life, working 24 hours, running up and down with a suitcase and a tie. Modern education is preparing one to acquire this doggish mentality because modern education is keeping people bound in the material world. Modern education is not teaching how to get out of this material entanglement. Therefore, Prabhupada has called modern education a slaughterhouse. Sonaka Rishi says that what is the use of this body if it is not used in Krishna's service? One's senses are purified simply by being employed in the service of the Lord. If senses are not involved in Krishna consciousness, they become our enemy. Ear holes are like holes of snake if ears are not used to listen to the message pastimes of the Lord. Tongue is like the frogs croaking, inviting snake to eat them if tongue is not used to sing, chant the glories of the Lord. Even if head is crowned with a silk turban, is actually a burden if the head is not bowed down before the Lord. Even if hands decorated with glittering bangles are like hands of a dead man if hands are not engaged in service of the Lord. Eyes are like printed plumes of peacock if eyes are not used to see the Lord's beautiful form, name, qualities, etc. So, barometer for yourself that if your heart does not become soft after chanting, you do not feel emotions while chanting, you do not get goosebumps, you do not cry, means my chanting is like I am taking a blank medical capsule. That's a quick summary of chapter 3, questions, comments, realizations. Nitya is next for chapter 4.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Seeking permission from all assembled devotees, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Parampara, Sri Sri Radha Krishna, to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 4, the process of creation today. Please forgive me for any shortcoming. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The sages want to know more of the discussion between Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit, as they are both devotees absorbed in transcendental knowledge and Krishna Katha. Their earnest desire was to hear more Krishna Katha. To become a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, two things are very essential, namely, having a chance to be born in a family of a devotee and having the blessings of a bona fide spiritual master. By the grace of Lord Krishna, Parikshit Maharaj had both these opportunities. He was born in a family of such devotees as the Pandavas, and the Lord had specifically saved him in the womb of his mother from the Brahmastra released by Ashwatthama. And later on, by the arrangement of the Lord being cursed by a Brahmin boy, the Maharaj was able to get the association of a spiritual master as Sukadeva Goswami. By hearing from Sukadeva Goswami that one should worship the Lord only and no one else, whether with desires, without desires, or seeking liberation, Maharaj Parikshit was perfectly able to concentrate his mind fully on Lord Krishna. Due to his wholehearted attraction for Lord Krishna, he was able to give up all of his material attachments. As a devotee of the Lord, he was always executing his royal duties on behalf of the Lord. A devotee never thinks of his material paraphernalia as his own, but surrenders everything to the service of the Lord. Attachment for the material paraphernalia and for Lord Krishna go poorly together, as one attachment is the path of darkness and the other is the path of light. Where there is light, there is no darkness, and where there is darkness, there is no light. But an expert devotee can turn everything to the path of light by an attitude of service to the Lord, as exemplified by Maharaj Parikshit. When one hears Srimad Bhagavatam, even for a day, as did Maharaj Parikshit from Sukadeva Goswami, one is able to lose all affinity for material things. Maharaj Parikshit, with his mind fixed on Lord Krishna, renounced all sort of fruitive activities, namely acts of religion, economic development, and sense gratification. Such regulated activities prescribed in the Vedas are called karma kandiyas, and they are for the householders to enjoy material prosperity in this life and next. Maharaj Parikshit, hearing from Sukadeva Goswami, perfectly understood that Lord Krishna is everything, and fixing his mind firmly onto the lotus feet of the Lord, renounced all modes of karmakandya activity. Hearing from Sri Sukadeva Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj stated that his ignorance was gradually destroyed. Devotional hearing of Lord's messages is not like hearing ordinary topics. Therefore, the action will be felt by the sincere hearer by the gradual disappearance of ignorance. Parikshit Maharaj asked the most important question of creation of the phenomenal universe, which were inconceivable even for the demigods. Maharaj did not ask Sukadeva Goswami to narrate Lord's pastimes in Vrindavan. He wanted to hear first about the creation of the Lord. And Sukadeva Goswami, though he knew the time was short, did not go directly to the transcendental pastimes of the Lord in the 10th canto. Both proceeded systematically, so that the future readers and hearers would follow the example of hearing and reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Those who are in the material world under the influence of Maya, the external energy of the Lord, must know that the external energy is working under his direction, and afterwards one can understand the working of his internal energy. Durga Devi is the shadow energy of the Lord, and behind her astonishing display of material working is the direction of the Lord, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.10. Therefore, the neophyte devotee needs to know how great the Supreme Lord is by inquiring about the process of creation. A common man, only by the gradual process of service and inquiry, reaches the stage to understand Lord's internal energy manifested in his transcendental pastime. The creation is inconceivably wonderful, and even learned scholars and scientists have no knowledge. Only when one knows Lord's greatness can one place his unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, like the common man, even the great leaders will mistake Lord Krishna for one of the demigods, a historical personality, or a myth. Creation is also one of Lord's pastimes. A study of Srimad Bhagavatam must start with the first canto and proceed chapter by chapter to get the Lord's mercy. Maharaj Parikshit already knows about creation, which bewilders even the demigods. So his inquiry is for the benefit of all. Lord is unlimited, and his activities are unfathomable. We can know something of the unlimited only when explained by the unlimited, as has been done by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita. It can be known to some extent from realized souls like Sukadeva Goswami, who learned it from Vyasadeva, a disciple of Narada. Thus, perfect knowledge can only be received in disciplic succession and not by any form of experimental knowledge. In Brahma Samhita 5.1, Brahmaji admits Lord Krishna to be the supreme cause of all causes. Ishwaram Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadaradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. The Supreme Lord is beyond the limit of conception for the mundane scholars, scientists, and philosophers. He is easily understood by one who is a pure, unconditional devotee. Sukadeva Goswami recites the Mangalacharan prayers before describing the process of creation. The devotees of the Lord, by delivering speeches and describing the attributes of the Lord, do not think that they can do anything independently. They think they can speak only when induced to speak by the Supreme Lord. These prayers are very important even to comprehend the messages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sukadeva Goswami prayed for Lord's mercy so that he is able to repeat the very same message spoken by the Lord to Brahmaji and Brahmaji to Narada Muni. Therefore, the statements of creation spoken by Sukadeva Goswami are perfectly correct, and one who hears it gets the perfect information of material creation. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions, comments, realizations for Nitya?
Beautiful presentation, Prabhuji, very nicely articulated. And recitation, so beautiful.
Yeah, Nitya has already done a very good presentation. Definitely, she recited the Brahma Samhita verse also very nicely, very naturally. Very good. I will also quickly summarize chapter 4. although it will be largely a repeat of what Nitya just said. Chapter 4 is titled The Process of Creation. In this chapter 4, Parikshit Maharaj inquires about creation. First is that how is Parikshit Maharaj able to give up all material attachments? Answer is because of his wholehearted attraction to Lord Krishna. Parikshit Maharaj was able to give up all his deep-rooted affection for his personal body, wife, children, palace, animals, treasury, friends, relatives, kingdom, everything. As devotee of Lord, Parikshit Maharaj was executing his royal duties on behalf of the Lord. Devotee never thinks of his household paraphernalia as his own, rather surrenders everything for the service of the Lord. Attachment for household paraphernalia is the path of darkness, and attachment for Lord is the path of light. These two attachments, they go poorly together. But an expert devotee can turn everything to the path of light by engaging everything with a service attitude for the Lord. One who has heard Srimad Bhagavatam even for a day from a fit personality like Sukadeva Goswami, just like Parikshit Maharaj heard, then one may be able to lose his affinity for material things. By being constantly wrapped in thoughts of Krishna, plus by the slight association of pure devotee like Sukadeva Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj was able to renounce all sorts of protective activities, namely acts of religion, economic development, sense gratification, and thus fixed himself firmly in his natural love for Krishna. Parikshit Maharaj is saying that as Sukadeva Goswami is speaking Srimad Bhagavatam, his ignorance is getting destroyed. And Parikshit Maharaj inquires about how the Lord creates, maintains, and annihilates these phenomenal universes. Now, Canto 10 is all about Krishna's pastimes that are very relishable and by which it is easy to focus mind on Krishna. Now, Parikshit Maharaj already knows about creation. And even when Parikshit Maharaj had only 7 days to live, Parikshit Maharaj is still inquiring about creation instead of Krishna's pastimes described in Canto 10. Why? Because without understanding the greatness of Supreme Lord, people treat Krishna as ordinary. They treat Krishna as God just in theory only. Therefore, one should first know the greatness of the Lord. Then Canto 10 pastimes will become relishable. Some others, they jump to Canto 10, the Ras Leela pastime, thinking that the Ras Leela are Krishna's Leela. But Sridhar Swami comments that this creation, the Srishti Leela, is also Krishna's Leela. Similarly, the Kurukshetra war was also Krishna's Leela. Creation is also a pastime of the Lord, and this pastime is inconceivable and is also relishable. Creation is very wonderful and inconceivable activity of the Lord, and learned scholars have insufficient information about this. Therefore, for the benefit of all, Parikshit Maharaj is inquiring about creation also. Why Parikshit Maharaj asked question about creation is to set an example for future readers and hearers that this is the process of reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. That you go step by step, start from the first canto, chapter by chapter, and gradually build all the way to Canto 9. Then Canto 10 pastimes will be relishable. This way you can perfect your life. Just as we all are studying scriptures in an orderly fashion. And this is how to get mercy of Krishna. And this is also for future followers to follow. And more importantly, Sukadeva Goswami also did not say to Parikshit Maharaj that Parikshit Maharaj, you should hear the transcendental Vrindavan pastimes of the Lord described in Canto 10. No, he did not say that. One must first of all know how the external energy of the Lord is working under the direction of the Supreme Lord, as is described in Bhagavad Gita 9.10, Maya Adhyakshina Prakriti. And then one may be able to enter into the activities of his internal energy. Therefore, do not neglect this knowledge of Krishna, the Srishti Leela knowledge also. Upon Parikshit Maharaj's inquiry about creation, Sukadeva Goswami will repeat the conversation between Shri Narad Muni and Brahmaji. And before reciting to Parikshit Maharaj, Sukadeva Goswami will first recite the Mangalacharan prayers to glorify Krishna and seek permission to speak. Today we have already built a lot of foundation for Srishti Leela, and soon we will hear from Pragya on Srishti Leela for chapter 5. That's a quick summary of chapter 4. Any questions, comments, realizations? All right, Pragya is going to present. Pragya, you should be able to share your screen.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Okay, I'll try to share. Can you see it, Prabhuji?
Yeah.
So I have a small presentation. I tried to make a small presentation. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I'm seeking permission from you all, Srila Prabhupada and all gurus in the disciplic succession and Sri Sri Radha Krishna. I will try and summarize Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2, Chapter 5, verses 1 to 35. Please forgive me for my shortcomings. So during the conclusion of Chapter 4, Prabhuji explained, and earlier Nitya Mataji also talked about, that we discussed that Parikshit Maharaj is inquiring about creation from Sukadeva Goswami. Srila Narad Muni had made same inquiry about creation to Brahmaji. Brahmaji gave Narad the same knowledge that he had originally received from the Supreme Lord. So to answer Parikshit Maharaj's question on creation, Sukadeva Goswami repeats that discussion. And in this chapter, we are going to savor that discussion. Questions on creation are inquiries about Srishti, and Srishti is also a Leela of Sri Krishna that Prabhuji just now explained. Discussion on creation gives us Atmagyan, knowledge about soul and supersoul. Narad Muni chooses the path of submissive inquiry to understand creation. He, Narad Muni, follows the science of parampara or the path of disciplic succession by approaching Brahmaji. Brahmaji, the first-born living entity, had received knowledge directly from the Supreme Lord. Transcendental knowledge is not a commodity to be bought. For a student, the requirement is that it must be attained through surrender, through submissive inquiry, and sincere service to qualified spiritual master. Narad Muni acknowledges that Brahma knows the past, the present, and the future of the universe with scientific clarity, as if the entire cosmos was a walnut held in the grip of his palm. Narad Muni asks for factual description of the manifest world, specifically seeking to understand the symptoms and background of creation. How is the Srishti created and conserved? Under whose ultimate control it functions? While Narad Muni is inquiring about creation, he is also trying to probe the source of power. Narad Muni inquires about independence of Brahmaji. He asks whether Brahma has created all entities alone through his own energy, or if he stands under the protection and subordination of a higher authority. While inquiring about independence, Narad Muni says that to an observer, Brahmaji appears self-sufficient. He provides the spider analogy. The spider also appears self-sufficient as it easily manifests a complex network of cobwebs from its own body without any external help. Modern scientists want to challenge the inconceivable potency of the Lord by measuring him with their brain. That also has been awarded by the Lord. Srila Prabhupada gives the frog in the well analogy to explain even the scientist's brain has limitation and it cannot explain the Lord's superintendence. So Narada realizes that even a creator as powerful as Brahma must have a source for his intelligence. Then another doubt that rises in Narada's mind is because he observes Brahma, the supposed creator of all, performing severe austerities and meditation in perfect discipline. Seeing his father in meditation leads Narada to recognize that there is a higher truth superior to Brahma, as the truly supreme being has no need to worship anyone else. So for understanding the queries of Narad Muni, I just was thinking of some analogy that we can think of a relationship between Narada and Brahma, like a student and a student pilot and a master captain. While the captain appears to be the sole master of the aircraft, the student pilot intelligently realizes that captain follows a higher set of flight laws and communicates with the ground controller who provides the ultimate direction and power for the journey. So, after hearing Narad Muni's inquiries, Lord Brahma clarifies the illusion and confirms that he is a dependent creator. While he appears powerful, his light is merely a reflection he creates after the Lord's primary creation, using Lord's personal effulgence, the Brahma Jyoti, much as the moon and stars reflect the sun. Brahmaji says that Vasudeva is the supreme authority. The Vedas, demigods, planets, and sacrifices are all ultimately meant for and controlled by Vasudeva. All meditation, austerities, and transcendental knowledge are also aimed to realize a glimpse of Narayan. Brahma admits to Narad Muni that he only discovers what has already been created by the Lord under the Lord's vision as the all-pervading Supersoul. The Supreme Lord is transcendental to material qualities or gunas, but accepts goodness, passion, and ignorance through his external energy to facilitate the world's maintenance, creation, and destruction. Those bewildered by Lord's illusory energy, Maya, remain bonded in I, me, and mine, thinking that they are the dependent doer, they are the independent doers. However, the Lord remains the superseer and controller of everyone, including Brahma himself. Brahmaji answered Narad's query on who the source of power was. Now he explains the mechanics of cosmic manifestation. To understand this, we follow the chart that we discussed in the last class. How does Mahat Tattva or the material universe evolve? It evolves as the Lord's expression through his various potencies. It encompasses all physical realities, leading to the manifestation of time, fate, and nature. From Mahat Tattva, false ego or ahankar is generated, having three features: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Goodness, it generates the mind and the demigod, sun god, fire god, etc., that we had discussed. Passion, it generates 10 senses, 5 for knowledge and 5 for action, Gyanendriya and Karmendriya. So the Gyanendriya are ear, skin for touch, eye, tongue, and nose. And the Karmendriyas are leg, hands, anus, genital, and the throat for sound. Ignorance generates elements of it generates 5 physical elements. Elements evolve through a chain of cause and effect, and each element has a subtle form. Ether has sound. Everything started with sound. Therefore, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is sound, is very important, and it helps us in going back to Godhead. Air has sound, as also touch, as they are manifested from each other. Fire has sound, touch, and also form. Water additionally has taste, and earth has all the above 4 subtle forms and also odor. Can these 16 components, the 10 indriyas, the 5 elements, and mind, can these 16 elements assemble into a universe? No, they are assembled by the force of Supreme Lord's energy. After lying in causal ocean for thousands of years, the Lord, as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, enters each universe and the universal form, Virat Rupa, with thousands of heads, arms, and legs is manifested. Matan Prabhu will next explain the Virat Rupa of the Lord to us. But before I close, I just wanted to use this analogy to understand the relationship between Supreme Lord and Lord Brahma. My son, a Google engineer, may like this analogy. It is like that of a computer programmer and a software user. The programmer, the Supreme Lord, writes the code, designs the operating system and provides hardware energy. The user, Lord Brahma, then opens the program and uses the pre-existing tools to create an app, while the software user is the one seen as creating the app. Its creation was entirely dependent on the primary architecture provided by the programmer, the Supreme Lord. So I stop here. Please excuse me for my weak understanding and expression. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Matan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Seeking blessing and permission from all of you to be able to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam chapter 5, verses 36 to 42. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yeah, I also want to share a visual. Can I share the screen?
Yeah, I'll give you permission. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Okay. Can everyone see the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, first I will describe about the universal form that Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita chapter 11. Arjuna personally requested Lord Krishna to show his form. Lord Krishna then manifested the universal form by his own will. Arjuna was given divine eyes to perceive it. Arjuna saw innumerable heads, countless eyes, unlimited arms, all demigod, universes, time, destruction, and creation simultaneously present. This form was terrifying. Krishna showing Krishna as time itself, devouring all warriors. Few devotees generally do not desire to see the Vishwarupa because it is very prideful and impersonal experience. Devotees prefer Krishna's sweet personal 200 form, Syama Sundar, which we can do loving exchange rasa. Arjuna wanted to give conclusive, establish conclusively that Krishna is Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Narad Muni asked Lord Brahma questions for the benefit of conditioned souls. The universal form is imagined conception. It is not eternal or ultimately real. It is not false or misleading. Here, different philosophers give different interpretation because Virat Rupa is not eternal form of the Lord, constructed according to their angular vision. Philosophers known as jnanis, they analyze it through the matter and elements. Virat Rupa is temporary. Lord personal form is eternal. So from this diagram, we can see that 14 planetary system. Basically, this diagram shows innumerable universes. Planetary. When we take one universe, we will see 14 planetary systems, namely, from the Satyaloka all the way down to the Padala, where we can see from the lotus navel a flower sprouts and Brahmaji sits on the top and meditating. Also, from our Srimad Bhagavatam verse, the 7 high planetary systems are thought to be above the waist of the universal form, while the 7, according to one verse, while the 7 lower planetary systems are below. As you can see from above Earth and below Earth, 7 planetary systems. And then according to another interpretation, there are 4 Varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriyas, and Vaisya, Sudra. Brahmana corresponds to the mouth. Kshatriya meant to give protection and they represent his arms. Vaisya have to work to maintain the society, so they represent his thighs. Sudra have to work, have to serve all the upper 3 classes, so they are his legs. According to another verse, the lower planetary systems up to the earthly realm are said to be situated in his legs. And the middle planetary system, starting from Varloka, are situated in his navel. The high planetary system where demigods and great sages reside are situated in his chest. Janakaloka and Tabaloka are positioned from the upper chest to the neck of the universal form. Satyaloka, the higher planetary system, is the material cosmos. It is located on the head of the form. According to another verse interpreted by Jnanisar, 7 lower planetary system which start from earthly realm is located on different parts of the Brad Ruba, which is Adala Ruba at the base, Vidala at the thighs, Sudala at the knees, Talatala at the chanks, Mahatala at the ankles, Rasatala at the upper part of the feet, Padala at the soles of the feet. So this imaginary form, like complete material universe, is permitted throughout the universal form of the Lord. According to another verse, lower planetary system located on the legs up to the earth, middle planetary system located around the navel, abdomen, upper planetary system Swargaloka located from the chest to the head of the universal form. The purpose of such a division in the chapter is to help visualize how entire cosmic creation in all its planetary system is contained within the cosmic manifestation of the Supreme Lord. The main teaching is that Supreme Lord is far off and controls every part of the creation, so nothing exists outside his lordship, and he is aware of it. Please point me for any shortcoming. That's about it. So.
All right. Questions, comments, realizations for the presenters, Pragya and Matan Prabhus?
Thank you again, Pragya Mataji and Matan Prabhu, for the wonderful, impactful presentations. You've explained such great concepts.
Yes, Prabhu, I second it. It was really a difficult chapter to even summarize. So both the presenters did such a good job, and the visual and the presentation was really helpful.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu. I got a goosebump. Pragya Mataji, oh my God, you're so creative. And Madan Prabhu, thank you so much.
All right. Very good. Yeah, they both have done good presentation. So I will also quickly summarize chapter 5, and I'm going to show you the visual from Canto 3, Chapter 5. So although we are discussing Canto 2, Chapter 5, where we saw one visual for the creation part, which was there on Pragya's slide as well, to make it crystal clear, I'm going to show you the visual from ahead Canto. This discussion about creation will continue till the start few chapters in Canto 3. So I'm going to show you right now so that it becomes crystal clear. Have undivided attention. So chapter 5 is titled The Cause of All Causes. Narad Muni asks questions different ways. Essentially, Narad Muni inquires about, first is about Brahmaji and second is about creation. The parampara system of acquiring knowledge is perfect process that Narad Muni adopted by making submissive inquiry to Brahmaji. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada says that one has to satisfy Guru by his sincere service, and then the self-realized Guru can impart knowledge, and only then Jiva can know knowledge of soul and supersoul. Exactly what is described in Bhagavad Gita 4.34, the spiritual master verse. Tad vidhi paripatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnanina tattvadarshina. So Narad Muni is inquiring heavy points such as how and why Jiva is infatuated with Maya, therefore is infatuated with I, me, mine. And who is in the background? Under whose shelter this is sustained? Is this all created just by chance? Some people say there is no creator. This creation happened by chance. Therefore, Narad Muni is asking, is it created by all? Or is there a superior energy involved in creation? And Narad Muni is asking Brahmaji that please narrate the secret, the truth behind creation. Brahmaji glorifies questions asked by Narad Muni, and Brahmaji saying that Narad Muni is being merciful to all. Your inquisitiveness is going to benefit all, and your inquiries are manifestation of your mercy on me also. This is what Brahmaji is saying, that this is mercy on Brahmaji also. This is the quality of a speaker, that when a speaker hears a question about Supreme Lord, he sees this as a good fortune to narrate about the Supreme Lord. So Narad Muni has inquired that you, Brahmaji, are you the only creator? Brahmaji says, as you see my activities, what you have said is not false. But because those who do not know about the Supreme Lord, hence you are saying, or those people say that I, Brahmaji, I am the only creator. But actually, there is Ishvara behind creation. Pragya gave very nice practical analogies from her own personal life. It was very nice. Thank you. So people worship powerful entities, and Brahmaji is saying this is illusion because they do not know about the Supreme Lord behind in the background. People worship other powerful people up to Brahmaji because people are in illusion. But actually, Ishvara is there. Supreme Lord is the original creator, and Brahmaji says, I, Brahmaji, I am the secondary creator. I am just assembling what is created originally by the Lord. So let us understand how Supreme Lord creates, or how Supreme Lord is the original creator with an example, a question from different angles. So just as a pot maker makes pot from the soil, yes, the pot maker will be able to make pot from the soil. A pot maker cannot make a dhoti out of soil. Now, can a tailor make dhoti out of soil? No, he cannot. Why? Because the information for dhoti is not there in the soil. Now, if you all try to make a pot from the soil, assuming you are not an expert to make pot from the soil, it is possible that you'll be able to make a pot. It's just that the pot may not be as perfect as the expert pot maker, which means that pot maker can make the pot because the knowledge of how to make the pot is already there in the earth. Therefore, you all, even though you are not an expert to make a pot from the soil, you all may also be able to make a pot from the soil, just not as perfect. So wanting to make a dhoti from the soil is not possible either for the pot maker or for the tailor, because the knowledge of dhoti is not in the soil. Similarly, Lord has already created everything as part of original creation, the sarga, and he provided all the initial ingredients for creation and were given by the Lord. And then Brahmaji assembles, just as car manufacturing plant is an assembly of parts that are manufactured at different places. So Brahmaji describes how the Lord creates the cosmos, that creation is essentially assembly of various parts. So we saw this visual that you have on the screen, that how Mahat Tattva is there, and then from Mahat Tattva comes false ego, and the three modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance were also created separately. And then false ego is mixed with ignorance and the five great elements are created. Then false ego mixed with passion, the Gyan Indriya and Karma Indriya are created. And false ego mixed with goodness, mind, and the initial 10 demigods are created. Now I'm going to show you a visual from later part of this creation discussion, which we did not discuss when we were discussing this chapter 2. But to make it crystal clear, in terms of the sequence, I'm going to show you this. So originally, there was only Krishna, the Supreme Lord. For material world creation, he first created Karnodakshay Vishnu, who does the initial creation part. The first thing that gets manifested is Kala, time. And jivas are anyway already existing, and it is the imperfected jivas who get pushed down to material existence. So they are anyway there. Next, through his glance, with the help of time, the swabhava of the jivas is infused in material energy, the pradhan. From pradhan, the three modes, which were anyway there in unmixed state, meaning mode of goodness was sitting in one corner, mode of passion was sitting in another corner, mode of ignorance was sitting in another corner. From this step onwards, at each of the next steps, three things are required. Karnodakshay Vishnu's glance, Kala, and Mahat Tattva, all are required simultaneously for each of the next steps. So from Pradhan, the Mahat Tattva gets manifested, which has Mahat Tattva is in Sattva, means in goodness, and also has another energy which is in passion. Then from Mahat Tattva comes Ahankar or ego. Ego is primarily in ignorance. Then ego is mixed with the unmixed portions of goodness, passion, and ignorance to get the various items. So as I explained that at each step, three things are required. Karnodakshay Vishnu's glance, Kala, and Mahat Tattva, even for the mixture. So from Ahankar and goodness, when they are mixed, so the mind and the 10 sense demigods are created. Ahankar and passion, the prana, the 10 senses, and the intelligence are created. One devotee asks this question, gets answered here. And from Ahankar and ego mixed, the five great elements are created. So elements, how they are created, it all starts with sound. From sound, the subtle form of ether, then ether gets manifested. From ether, touch gets manifested. From touch, air gets manifested. And this way, all continues. And that's why when the second element gets manifested, means in ether, there is only the subtle element of sound. But because from ether comes touch, therefore in air, the second element, both sound and touch are included. And this way, when you reach to earth, all the subtle elements of sound, touch, form, taste, smell are included. And simultaneously, the 10 demigods. So these 10 demigods are controlling demigods for our respective senses. These are created as part of original creation by the Lord. These are created even before Brahmaji is created. So all of this creation has happened. Brahmaji is not even in the picture. The next step, which is not there on the slide, what happens is that an egg, the universal egg, gets formed, and from Karnodakshay Vishnu expands as Garbhodakshay Vishnu and enters that universal egg as the super soul, and that's how the universe starts coming into its form and expands and becomes the universe that we live in. From Garbhodakshay Vishnu, the universal form for each universe also gets manifested, and there is a lot more discussion coming up in upcoming chapters all the way till Canto 3 start of the few chapters, that how the individual limbs of the universal form get manifested. So that universal form is the actual universal form described it in Bhagavad Gita. Yes, the description is here. So this universal form description is not a concept. When the actual universal form gets manifested, it's described at great length in terms of time, more details than what is described in Bhagavad Gita chapter 11. And then from Garbhodakshay Vishnu's navel, a lotus sprouts, and on that lotus, Brahmaji takes birth. Take a snapshot of what you have. We'll anyway discuss this as we progress. Any questions, comments, realizations on creation? Now, before you ask anything, I'll summarize the last piece of this chapter 5, that all these elements, before this mixing happens, what we have discussed in Canto 2, chapter 5, that all these elements, they were created and they were sitting idle, doing nothing. And these elements were saying that we are created for Lord's enjoyment and we are doing nothing. And then the Lord came and started creation, just as Garbhodakshay Vishnu entered as the super soul. So material elements cannot do anything without God. Creation is essentially assembly of various parts, just as car manufacturing is assembly of various parts. So all this creation is done by Supreme Lord, but Supreme Lord still stays the same. Now, some may say that God is distributed. No, God is not distributed. God is not like an object that elements are distributed. Rather, God, the original Shyam Sundar form, stays as it is. The original does not lose his identity. And Srila Prabhupada explains that it is the energy of the Lord that undergoes transformation, but the Lord remains the same. This is Achinta Bhed Abhed Tattva. Mat Tattva is nothing but expansion of his energy, which undergoes transformation. Lord is not transformed, but his energy, the Mahat Tattva, is transformed. That's a quick summary of chapter 5, probably a little more detailed. Questions, comments, realizations? All right. So for your next class, I request all of you to please read Canto 2, Chapter 6. And at the start of our class today, I shared a couple of lectures for you to stay occupied during the holidays. So I will share again. Some of you joined partway through because of technical difficulties. So first I'm going to share Sanskrit and how to take darshan. And I'm also going to share Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 8, verses 13 to 23 on how to meditate. So just as Divya perfectly described in her presentation on how to take darshan is also described by Bhakti Yoga Prabhu, and the verses from Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 28, 13 to 33 will help in practicing the meditation. Next, I'm also going to share a lecture on Ekadashi, so you can listen and keep yourself occupied during the holidays. And further, anybody interested, you can also listen to my lecture on Srimad Bhagavatam for one verse, 1.7.22, that how I have given about a 30-minute lecture on one verse covering so many topics. So only a couple devotees have heard that lecture. And the fourth lecture that I already asked those who came for services as well as others far away from Toronto, that how to listen to Srila Prabhupada's lecture for your next level of mind control. Only some devotees took that lecture from me. So it's an option for you all to listen to all those lectures and stay occupied in Krishna conscious activities during the holidays. Everybody downloaded, or if you are not able to download, you can always get it from me offline. Thank you all for tolerating about 10 extra minutes. We'll stop here. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.